I'd like to call to order the Avalon City Council meeting of Tuesday, March 20th. We would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would just like to take a minute to wish Melinda Sessions well. She was a victim of a recent bison incident, and anyway, we just want to wish her our best. Please be seated. And Gabby, will you be doing the roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Cassidy. Here. Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Sampson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson.
Here.
Mayor Marshall.
Here. And did you want to make the announcement for the presentation?
Luke, I just went blank on your last name. Shaner. We have Luke Shaner here from Southern California Edison to give us another update on the Prop 1 funding, as well as he has a little bit more information to give us tonight, too.
I do. Thank you, Denise. A little more time than usual, so I appreciate, or fair warning anyways. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I appreciate your time and the opportunity for me to present an update on the DWR grant application process. It's an honor to be here. The update on the timeline of where we were last meeting and where we are today, you can see based on the red text of what's in front of you, there has been some progress, which is good as we're marching towards a deadline on March 30th to have the projects and applications prepared to submit. Most notably, on March 9th, we submitted one of the three projects through the local Integrated Regional Water Management Committee. That was for Desal Plant 2. That was submitted through the City of Avalon based on the recommendation from that committee. The second of the three projects was submitted on March 13th. And we are working to submit the third this week. We just received some final information to identify constraints within that project and scope and definition, which will allow us to complete that process. So that's where we are with the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. And I may have mentioned this before, but being part of this plan is an opportunity to score additional points in our application to DWR. So we want to take advantage of that and continue to utilize the resources that the city's providing in that effort and work towards that goal. Being that we did submit one of the projects on the 9th, was received by the committee in time to get on their March agenda, and so we just had that meeting earlier this afternoon in Lakewood, and we presented the Desal Plant 2 project and received their approval. So it is recognized in their plan now, and we will check the box in that application when it goes in. We also conveyed that there are two more projects in the queue that they will see, and we will be there to present at they hold monthly meetings. So we will continue to progress towards that recognition in their plan. And being that the grant applications due a week from this Friday, we're going to identify what has been achieved and the progress being made and where we are in the anticipated approval coming in April. So even though it's not going to be in time for the application being made, we think by the time through the review process, they'll be able to validate that it has received approval, and we'll check the box in that category. On March 14th, the DWR announced the final Round 4 award notification. So that came after their January 24th communication where they provided draft award notifications where they did not recommend our project. So that completed their task. And as soon as that completed, they reached out to us because at the March 5th public workshop that Jordan Monroe and I attended, they offered for any applicants who submitted applications that did not receive or weren't recommended for funding, they would take an opportunity to review and go through a pre-submittal call with them. So we took them up on that, and we had that call last Wednesday and had a scheduled follow-up time on Friday. So we spent 2 hours Wednesday and 2.5 hours on Friday going through the system, going through our water system, explaining to them the background, what we communicate day to day, but may not be as relevant to them looking at an application paper. So seized that moment and got a lot of good, valuable insight from them and information that we're using to formalize and finalize the projects we're submitting the end of this month. Mentioned one of those 3 projects today. We received approval from the Integrated Regional Water Management Steering Committee, and in future updates, we'll be able to populate the trailing 2 projects that did not make the agenda.
And I'm sorry, did you say which one of the projects has been submitted?
Desal Plant 2,
Oh.
the first of those 3
Okay.
projects, which we'll show that table in a little bit. I think that's it on the background and changes in the timeline there. In response to Councilmember Cassidy's request and a member of the public's request for the comments Southern California Edison received from California Department of Water Resources on the applications we submitted last August and September, we've prepared comment summaries based on what we received from DWR, and what this speaks to specifically is the areas that we did not receive the required score to be recommended for funding. So it's areas, voids within the application last time that we're looking to address this time. And so what I can do now is read through those comments and the question that they were reviewing, the comment they made, and then how we're addressing that in our resubmittal. The first one is, and what I've done here is a lot of them were similar across the board to all the projects we submitted, since they're all desal enhancements for the Avalon system. Some scope might be different, but some of the comments spoke to the applications across the board. And so I've grouped those where necessary. The first question is, the proposal typed as a construction project as given in section 3.3 of the PSP, and is the application complete? So our Desal Plant 2 project did not get the required scoring here, and they identified that the plant to increase base water supply appears to be temporary. The Coastal Commission permit amendment says temporary installation and operation of a portable desalination unit. The Regional Water Quality Control Board letter says portable desalination unit at PBGS to augment potable water protection will not require an immediate amendment. And so we've since clarified to them that the project proposed is not to be temporary, but it's a permanent system. And steps are being taken to demonstrate the system's long-term permanence and having the necessary approval language to reflect this. The DWR recognized certain language in 2 of our 3 operating permits, being those 2 that I mentioned, that raised this concern when they reviewed the application. Both Regional Water Quality Control Board and Coastal Commission are aware of what's been identified here, and we have our permit agents working on if they're going to issue a letter acknowledging the continued operation and how we're going to address the Department of Water Resources concern with that project here. And it's worth noting that when those approvals were obtained was June of 2015, which was a critical time, and I believe so certain accelerations were made to issue approvals and to allow operation by a certain date. And so we're going through the process and updating all the language across the board. Our permit amendment with the Division of Drinking Water does not contain that kind of language, so we're just going through this process of formally updating them all. So we don't expect that to be an issue in the resubmittal. The desal storage and distribution, the pipeline project, also had a knock here. They identified that the project creates an independent yield. However, it depends on future phases for an operable facility. And this storage project is only eligible if built after or simultaneous to the upgrade. And we took our clarification call to demonstrate the benefit with that project and how there is a base benefit with Plant 1, even with Plant 2. And then as we add desal capacity, that benefit increases. So they acknowledged this. And they suggested that as we receive final information on the saltwater well project, which we're receiving this week, we're going to clarify how we intend to resubmit to ensure their address is going to be met here. And so this is, given the feedback received and the subsequent engineering that has completed, we are prepared to address this concern in the resubmittal. Item 4 here, the second box. To what degree does the proposal provide information that the project will result in water quality and ecosystem benefits related to decreased reliance on diversions from the delta or in-stream flows per PSP section 3.4? And then they specifically identified on all 3 projects, this service area of the project is not reliant on diversions from the delta or in-stream flows. The applicant may be able to demonstrate an indirect reliance on imported water from the delta that would be reduced by this project. There also may be ecosystem benefits if this project would reduce groundwater impacts such as overdraft and aquifer soil consolidation. And so in response to their comment and through clarification last week, we're working with the City of Avalon and information presented herein to quantify the amount of California tourists that visit the island and the amount of bottled water shipped to the island, identifying that the bottled water may impact delta diversion or in-stream flows, and that tourists, when visiting the island, also have an indirect positive impact to the delta diversion or in-stream flows. In addition, we're working with the Conservancy to further supplement and quantify the state's local ecosystem benefit this project promotes by reducing groundwater impacts, especially in the largest watershed on the island. We're supplementing the water quality data to identify the improvements from desal compared to groundwater, industry-wide, but also as it relates to this area. The next comments. To what degree does the proposal provide information that the project will result in public health benefits from improved drinking water quality or supply per PSP Section 3.4? And this was across the board on all applications. The application did not directly address public health, but additional reliable water supply is a benefit. Application may be able to provide more specific public health benefits, especially during periods of severe conservation restrictions. As a result of the comment and subsequent clarifications with Department of Water Resources, we're working with the City of Avalon, supplementing the information provided in regards to recent rationing events, limits imposed on per capita consumption on the island, including conservation achieved, and the limited potential within the community to increase water reserves through conservation, being that there's limited landscaping in yards compared to other agencies that DWR evaluates, and water recycling, being that roughly 80% of sewer and fire suppression system is saltwater. Essentially, we're highlighting that the majority of water conservation and rationing in the community has to be achieved through household water use, showers, laundry, dishes, washing hands, to further provide information to the department's concerns here. And it's through our background and increasing the story of the recent experience on the island and the efforts taken that we could tell that the reviewers were able to better grasp the condition and how it relates to what we're proposing and the benefits achieved. The next comment, which we did not receive the required points, was, will the project employ new or innovative technology or practices in desalination treatment, water intake, or brine management? Objectives of the technology may be improved cost effectiveness, energy efficiency, treated water quality, reduce adverse environmental impacts, or other benefits. So we believe yes, each project does in its own way. And this was a project across the board and with some potential to increase scoring to be eligible. The applicant, on DSAL Plan 2, the applicant needs to adequately address this section: new or innovative technology or practices, cost effectiveness, energy efficiencies, treated water quality, reduce environmental impacts, or other benefits. And then note, using existing infrastructure is protective and cost effective. So specifically on Desalination Plant 2, we are emphasizing and referencing information based on that new equipment we installed. We do have a new GER reverse osmosis system that offers energy recovery on the brine reject, which results in higher efficiency. And then also, as well as accomplishing the benefit by limiting the infrastructure improvement. So just by installing that Desal Plant 2 on at the existing station, we're able to significantly increase desal capacity and even report quantified benefit in 2016 and 2017 compared to baseline, because we had it online and available. So not only are we saying and projecting it, but we also have the opportunity to pull actual data that demonstrates values above our conservative projections. On the saltwater well and desal systems, they identified non-open ocean intake wells are preferred by the ocean plan. The project employs beach wells. This is preferred and could be called an innovative technology. However, the project does not improve the existing rip-wrap brine diffuser to ocean discharge. How does this compare to the preferred option of the ocean plan? Are there future plans to upgrade the discharge component? Explain. So we are adding supplemental information on the non-open intake wells and the innovative use of existing infrastructure to maximize the benefit with respect to cost as a result of this subsequent engineering that's completed on this project. So we'll be able to speak to that. We're able to zero in the cost on that project and identify constraints to frame up the benefit, frame up the cost, and frame up the scope. And we'll be able to speak to that a lot better now that that's been formally completed. The renewal process with Regional Water Quality Control Board will be identified, including the proposed pilot testing plan summary, which modeled and actual results are expected to meet the requirements of the new ocean plan. So being based on that communication with our permit agent, we don't think it's necessary at this time to propose additional scope to enhance the existing infrastructure, especially being that we have an operating system installed and permitted today. That'll increase scope and the cost estimate. So we're going to further detail our current permit process in that capacity and explain why that is and explain our methodology and our plan to demonstrate conformance strategically by first modeling, second sampling, and hopefully we hope that that's enough. The third project, the desal storage and then distribution, they identified that the proposed project includes a booster pump station and enhanced pipeline and pressure reducing stations to accommodate the bidirectional flow required to push water to Wrigley Reservoir. Clearly describe the proposed project technology advancement and describe how these enhancements are innovative. So again, we will add supplemental information, and being that the major point of innovation for the unique system here to Catalina and its characteristics are that we're leveraging existing infrastructure, and so we're able to paint that picture a lot more clearly now that we have the subsequent engineering complete, and that we're formally identifying the limits of the proposed enhancements on that project. It'll be highlighted the avoided cost of other necessary projects that would be required to achieve the same level of benefit accomplished by this project. So that's how we're enhancing the resubmittal going in shortly. The next comment: does the project team have the experience, applicable licenses, ability? Better not try to read that. And availability to complete the project as described in the application? We hope so. This was just a standard comment on all of them, and we leveraged existing information in the previous submittal, and we're looking to supplement it in this resubmittal and based on clarifications we had with the department last week. And we do have resumes to attach, at least 5 per discipline here for engineering, permitting, construction, project management, and operations. And on any future work not yet contracted, information will be provided on what minimum qualifications and experiences will be required. Information will also be provided on the status of grant awards and pursuits by SCE, and as this was one of their questions. And so the main update on that is we do have a drought contingency plan in the process of being contracted, and we'll speak to that. We're also going to highlight the recent experience and successful completion for Plant 2 to leverage on future projects. We have this experience, we have demonstrated completion, and we're looking to maintain that momentum and strategy with these new enhancements. And the best time to do it is while you still have the team together and you have that knowledge there. And so that's going to be provided in the resubmittal. Does the project have community support and an established public outreach program? Does the public outreach plan indicate continuous public involvement? So this was a comment on all 3 of the applications, and they specifically identified the outreach presented implies little has been done to reach out to the public. Explain the outreach that has been done and additional outreach that is planned. Attachment 13, which I believe included some of that information, is sparse. Opposition included some mandatory water rationing and increasing customer rate. Clarify whether the opposition is against the project or just opposition to higher costs and rationing. Outreach for the storage project needs to be adequately highlighted. Is there an active community committee? So we are adding supplemental information to highlight the community and public outreach performed during recent rationing events, ongoing branding and signage that the city continues to display at council here and demonstrate water is a top priority, and identify the efficient way to do that so that you're communicating importantly and giving the high level information, the important information for the broader base. And then something that the department cautioned was, when you start getting into those forums, you need to be careful about changing perception that water is more available, or it might be okay to conserve less because desal is there, and they wanted us to be cautious that was being considered when whatever communications are being provided. So when it was discussed during the meeting, we emphasized that wasn't the case, and the steps by the community demonstrating what the use has been doesn't reflect that, and that will continue to provide information. Will provide information at the council, provide information on the website, continue to provide those reports and transmittals, because I believe efficient means have been provided to strategically place relevant information in areas where it's available to people, and so we're working with the city, with Jordan specifically, and strengthening that exhibit. We are identifying that, we're clarifying that the opposition is not to the projects being proposed, and pulling in information from the vast letters of support that were received on this project. It may appear that maybe they didn't review those for this area, but so we'll copy that information and highlight it again and again. I think that was it. So we plan to address their comments and concerns sufficiently in this next submittal, and having the additional time to talk them through the different things being employed, I believe helped them understand the system and the condition here on the island a lot better. Is the schedule complete and implementable? So this was more on the future projects, the saltwater wells and the pipeline project. And they specifically said, align the tasks in the schedule, the scope of work, and the budget. The completion within 3 years of grant award appears to imply the project is not really ready to proceed. So again, we are supplementing the information previously provided based on the engineering and permitting work that has continued since then and been completed. And in doing so, demonstrates the project's ability to continue to be implemented and completed. Schedule contingency will be highlighted to demonstrate the flexibility to complete by the deadline the grant imposes, and the expectation to complete sooner so that the benefit could be realized sooner. We expect that with the additional information completed, the engineering completed, that's referenceable in this next application, that those concerns will be met. Number 14, has the benefits and cost analysis been completed, and does the project provide positive benefit? So this is a long one, all three applications. Attachment 20 is what was used here, is the same for all three applications, and the required tables in 20 were not used. The analysis of costs exerted from the feasibility study. Attachment 16 appears to combine the three proposed projects. So it is not possible to determine the costs and benefits to the three applications independently. The project is likely to provide a moderate level of benefit in relation to cost, but sufficient detail is needed to verify. For the cost analysis that is provided, there is lack of detail on the basis of capital and O&M costs, and even Attachment 10, budget lacks detail on capital costs. The methodology to calculate the unit cost is not presented to determine whether it conforms to Attachment 20, other than a statement that a 4% discount rate was used instead of 3%, as required in Attachment 20. Costs are compared to three alternatives that are variants of the proposed project. Non-desal alternatives, barge or pipeline from mainland, were considered for facilities plan, but costs are not analyzed in attachment 20. As presented by the applicants, the desal variant alternatives are more expensive than the proposed project. So we are supplementing this information. Previously, we had deferred to what had been completed in the feasibility study, going through that screening process and leveraging that in that application being made. Through this resubmittal, we are completing attachment 20 independently for each project, each application, and reviewing that with Department of Water Resources prior to submittal. So they offered to do that, and we're gonna take them up on that. And I mean, I believe at face value, the time wasn't spent. A lot of time wasn't spent working those attachments and scenarios that weren't recommended by the desal feasibility study. So, but we are spending that time now and have consultants preparing that information. 16 is the project technically feasible and justifiable. This was a knock on the desal storage and distribution, how the storage will function as part of a potable water supply system, and how it will result in increased desalinated water deliveries are not adequately addressed. So through last week's clarification call with Department of Water Resources, we're adding the additional relationship they want to see between storage and use and performance and permanence to the desalination system. We even staggered the benefit and how it relates to each of the projects independently, and then how it would relate in different scenarios if it was all grouped with one project or all three together. And so they, again, offered to review before we submit, review how we're finalizing that, if we're going to have 3 applications, or if we're going to have 2, or if we're going to have 1, so that they could confirm ahead of time and envision how they're going to review that, how they're going to score it. So we will be taking them up on that this week as well. 17 is the project identified in an integrated regional water management plan. Project is not identified in a plan as stated in their GRANTS, that's their online portal. You know, through coordination with the city, we've identified a path forward on this comment, and we did complete one of the 3 projects in that capacity, and we are on schedule to complete the remaining 2 by April of this year, and we're going to speak to that in the resubmittal. So that's all the negative. There was equal amounts of positive, I believe 18 total areas that they scored, meeting the requirement. However, it was not recommended for funding. Councilmember Cassidy, was that what you're looking for?
So the missing numbers are ones that you combined? Is that correct?
Numbers. Oh, no, the missing numbers, basically they had a 18 question sheet. The missing numbers are areas that scored what they needed to score in order to be recommended for funding.
Oh, got it. Okay. So did I hear we still have an opportunity for those 3 projects to be resubmitted, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And because I misunderstood on the very first slide that the second group was not recommended on the 14th. I think I misunderstood that. On slide number 1, it talks about on 314, DWR provides final round 4 award information, and you had said we were not recommended. Right.
Good question. That's a good question. By round 4, I'm referring to the process we submitted in September of 2017. So that submittal process is done, complete. We were not recommended, and they post their final award notification on the 14th. And what's left to where they redirect the funds and award grants is called their continuous funding opportunity, continuous application process.
I see. Okay, I got it. So we still have an opportunity for those 3 projects. Okay, great.
Yep, and we're submitting through the continuous application process.
Okay. Thank you very much for providing the comments that they gave. I think it helps us to understand what you guys are, what your next steps are, what you're working on, what you're putting together. I think that's very helpful. And we're back on track with the city participating and helping in any way that they can, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
great.
Didn't mention earlier, Jordan was part of that 5.5 hours last week, the whole time. And so, again, DWR recognized that. We were both at the public workshop, which I believe was a good display, and that was maintained here. And, areas where my experience was not as strong as Jordan's, he was able to offer additional information to DWR in terms of the community and the city here. So it was a positive experience, and mutually expressed by Department of Water Resources. It was Richard Mills and Nancy King who are kind of leading the charge.
Great. Thank you very much.
I have a question. Did you have more to go through, Luke? I don't want to interrupt.
It should be faster. Yeah. Sorry.
Now you're gonna go through the 18 good things?
No, we don't have time for that.
Okay.
Here's the plan. Here's the summary. And so we've been trying to finalize the saltwater well and desal facility number. Previously it was 10 million. We've keyed in on 8.54 million. And what we've done there was identify the existing infrastructure between the current well location and the facility and the desal facility, and validate what's the maximum we could get through that existing pipeline, and what are the associated number of wells to get through there, and have some redundancy, and not dilute the benefit, the dollar per acre foot benefit the project provides. And so we've determined 8.54 million for that project. So those were based on how the previous submittal was arranged, that's how it's arranged now. And then I have those two areas merged, depending on how we clarify with DWR if we're going to be combining the future projects into one application. So, and that speaks to the progress in engineering since the application went in August and what we were able to further validate and understand. Next step, submit the last of the three projects through the IRWM. That's another acronym to remember, and process and approval to remember here. But we have one complete and approved, one in the queue. We're getting the next one in the queue this week. And then so that the two that are in the queue will hopefully receive their committee approval at their next monthly meeting in April. Finalize the grant applications by the March 30th date, the earliest date to resubmit, and that was a question by DWR, and we emphasize that that is our goal, and we will inform them as soon as they go in. And again, because they are supposed to prioritize any applicants that resubmit in their review and award process. And again, I think we've been identifying they have limited resources too on the review process, and they've kind of been postponing dates by as much as weeks or months. They said to keep the June 30th date as tentative, and they'll provide more information as we get closer. I think that's it for me.
So there's been a question in the community. Any of these grants require matching funds?
So the typical requirement is 50% matching. We are requesting funding. We are requesting a waiver of that match, and referring to the income survey that was completed in 2016, because there are conditions or clauses within the proposal guidelines that indicate that waivers may be provided to communities that are demonstrate to be disadvantaged. They don't formally say how much. We try to get them to tell us, but they did say that that is a part that could be clarified and negotiated after the recommendations are made.
And Mayor, our office has been working with Jordan and Edison on making certain that we provide them background information to qualify for the DAR designation.
Okay. And then I just had one other question. Anywhere in the application process does it talk about impact to the community? Because as we know, or as I believe we know, at some point Edison will be going forward asking for tariff revisions based on the amount of water that was not sold during the drought, million-gallon tank. There's a lot of millions of dollars to that. And then there's these millions of dollars. And, I mean, so I guess that's where it comes in with the disadvantaged. But, I mean, if you were to put that on the backs of 2,000 ratepayers, somewhere up to $24 million probably between what you may want to recoup and what you're requesting now. Isn't there a good case for that? I mean, when you're talking about the Delta and that other thing and all of that, I mean, the Delta services farmers and thousands of people along the Delta, and it goes all over the place. And I don't know if anybody is as small as we are and would be affected so intensely as
Yes, I think through this process, through maybe communications that the city's had with the department, through communications we've had with them, we're trying to convey that information. And we reaffirmed that in the call last week and are going to highlight there was an area where we calculated a scenario, for every $10 million spent, it would potentially do this to the average resident bill. Right. And so we communicated that to them, and we're going to highlight that again in an effort to provide them with as much information as possible. But yeah.
Cool. Does the community have any questions? No? All right.
Tony does.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up, Tony. Thank you.
So Tony Bedrovich, 56 Azul, also representing the Catalina Island Conservancy. We've worked with Edison in my 3 years here on the island and looked at different opportunities. I just wanted to express to Mayor and Council that I think that this is probably the best approach from the standpoint of protecting the island. I don't think our groundwater supplies are in a good way. I think the quality of water that comes out of desalinators is substantially better than the groundwater that we often drink if you live at Hamilton Cove or in any of the remote coves or things like that. I worry a lot about the wildlife and plant of the animals, so does my science team. And we believe that this approach that they're looking is actually extremely logical and actually took place in the wrong direction. I think Edison, not to critique, but to be honest, I think Edison rushed to try to put together that second desalinator and didn't think about the well, didn't think about the infrastructure, didn't think about holding capacity, or just made the quickest decision they could to start to improve a problem. I don't know that. Mayor, I agree with you. I don't know what the cost impacts are. That obviously would affect the community, but I just wanted to say I have a 10-year background running a desalination company before I was in my current role. I have a very strong awareness of how desalinators work. I've probably put 100 systems in many coastal communities around the world. So I'm pretty up on the subject, and desalination I feel strongly is good environmentally as far as a seawater well. I'm not one of the people that worries that we're hurting the oceans that surround us and things like that. For those of you that know me, you know that I also had 23 years between SeaWorld and Marineland, so I'm pretty marine trained as well. I'm a science geek by nature. I love technology. But I just wanted to give the overview that I think Edison is approaching this appropriately. I think it is I would be a strong advocate to say yes as a local who uses the water and that type of thing. I didn't hear the comment on the connection to Hamilton Cove. I know that was something that Edison's talked about. I don't know if that was in these numbers or not.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Great. It alluded to all these water connections. I just wasn't sure. So I just wanted to go on record saying that I think this is probably the most positive move the island can make, because I don't see anything helping our water supply. You see today a heavy day of rain, how much rain we're getting, and you see where the trends are going. And we work with 6 universities within my staff trying to do a lot of learning and training. And whether you start up north with Stanford or you end at San Diego State University, these are all universities that work with us and are studying the ecology of the island, the water hydrology of the island, the watersheds of the island. Every indication is, from what I'm gathering from these meetings, is that desalination is the smartest approach to what we're doing, and ongoing drilling of wells of the island is only hurting the island because of the watershed not having the drool factor down the canyons and whatever. And those of you that enjoy the island and get out there, you'll see that the more you take the water out of the island, the less chance you're going to have water running down those streams and natural runoff areas. So just wanted to lend my support and tell you both as a resident and someone who works with the Conservancy that I think this is a sound move.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And thank you, Luke, and we will see you on the 3rd of April.
Thank you, Luke.
What?
Have a safe trip going back.
Oh, well, you could do that. And I guess we'll have a copy of that for posterity, this report.
Yes.
Okay.
I could place some at the front counter.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Announcements and written communications.
I have no written communication, but I have a few announcements. I just want to remind the public that on April 3rd is the last day for vehicle registration. After that, it's an additional $25. So currently, it's $30 for a golf cart or a full-size vehicle or a microcar. Last day to register to vote is March 26th, and to request a vote by mail is April 3rd. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and it's right here at City Hall. The vote by mails have been pouring in already, so I look forward to the results. And then one other thing is, this is a fun piece of information, is that on March 10th, a couple handful of us of city staff got together, and half of us went up to the city warehouse and went through a bunch of old records and boxed them up for destruction, as well as some were down here at City Hall, and we have a little over 80 boxes already for our first go-round, and that was 4 hours, I think.
Oh, my God.
So,
Wow. Okay. Department head reports. Who would like to begin?
Good evening. Bob Greenlaw, Director of Public Works, giving the Public Works update. First thing is happy spring.
Yeah.
At 9:16 this morning, it was spring. So pleased to announce that Edgar Alvarez has joined Public Works full-time as an administrative assistant. Edgar has been working part-time for the city for the past 2 years while he's finishing up his bachelor's degree in business, and he has since graduated. He's also an Avalon High School graduate, so we're developing one of our young members of our community, and he'll provide essential administrative support functions for our department. We're working on storm damage, so today we're out there at Step Beach making the repairs to the last 2 sinkholes that have been sitting out there, getting the materials tomorrow, some more concrete to make sure that we shore up that wall at the edge. We're looking for the sand delivery to be at the end of April, start of May, so that we don't get out there too early with the sand, so we don't lose it again. So it should be ready for our season at that point. But in the meantime, you see that we're spreading out the sand that we do have, so it's presentable. And we'll do the same thing at Step Beach, whatever sand we do, or add a little bit more from some of the supplies around here, so that we make sure that it's ready for at least for spring break. And then the railing on South Beach, that's a special order, so we should see that it may be another 4 weeks before we get that repaired. But we'll spruce that up a little bit before spring break here so that it looks better, not just have the caution tape. We're going to do the rollout of the recycling and trash receptacle programs, and we're looking for that at the May meeting. We're looking at, city manager and I were looking at this morning at potential addenda dates, and it looked like everything was kind of packed for April, and we wanted to make sure that there was time to be able to roll that out and talk about it. So that'll happen at the first meeting in May. Sediment study, same thing. The consultant's finishing up the technical memorandum. He's made good progress. So we're looking, that'll be the same timing at the start of May to finish that up and make decisions on that. And Public Works has been working with the harbor master to get the lower fuel dock float in for this season. So we're working on that as we actually speak. Any questions?
I have one. Public Works staff came by a couple days ago on Lower Terrace Road where the flood that came down the stairwell next to the stairwell was, and put some cones up, and it looks like part of that Lower Terrace Road is kind of, because of the water damage, is kind of breaking off. What do you guys have? Do you have anything planned for
No, yeah, I'll take a look at it and
Okay.
and get it going. And if it looks like it needs to be safety up right away, we'll put it higher up on the list.
They put some caution up there for right now. I just didn't know if it was, if it looked worse than it really was, or if,
We had erosion down the hillside, so
Yeah.
that's not good. Every time, those are difficult repairs as they go down the hillside. You can do fixes with matting and with some plants, but also usually they require some rock to fill in there to stabilize it and work from the bottom up.
Question about sediment study. What can you tell me about what's going to transpire from that? Are we going to see any results this summer?
Results this summer. Well, first
Immediate
we
results?
need money. Okay, so
Yeah.
that'll be the first thing that we'll
Okay.
make an ask of council.
Okay. Is that being worked on? Do we know?
Yeah, we have some proposals, so potentially that, I guess reveal it at that time, yes. But, so we need money, and then there's some alternatives they're working on with the way to tie up the Catalina Express, and we need to talk to them to see if that would facilitate, the way that they operate. But in doing so, that may take out the need for the barrier wall. And
Well,
so,
the Catalina Express already expressed that they would do anything they need to help us out with that. So
Correct.
I already know that.
yeah, so we're trying to reduce the cost down by taking a look at different systems of tying
Okay.
up. So they're doing the fuller exploration.
What's the chance of just dumping some sand back on the beach and getting
Yes.
our beach back?
So that involves permitting with the Regional Water Quality Control Board, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the California Coastal Commission
Is
to be able
the
to do a dredging operation. So to be able, or we can just go and, buy the sand and dump it. But the sand is right out there in the harbor.
okay? That's right. We still have the sand in the harbor.
That's
So
correct.
we're talking about the dredging process. If we need to do that, are we going ahead with trying to find the permitting, and are we
Yes, that's
submitting
part-
that? Or is that
That's
partly
part
in
of
the
the technical
process?
memorandum. The consultant has been talking with those three agencies and seeing what their requirements would be so they can report that so that we can put those permits in, okay? If that's the decision we want to make, okay?
That's a decision we want to make. Yeah, we want to definitely expedite that process, whatever way we can to get the sand back so that we can get rid of the problem that we have right now and then protect the community with
Okay.
that wall being filled in.
I can bring them back to council earlier if. we need
The
to
sooner
do
the
that.
better. That's
Whenever it's ready. I mean, you can't say something that's not.
It would
Not-
just be the dredging aspect of it. We'd be ready for it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it as soon as possible because it's really important we get that beach back. It's been off the grid for about 8 years now, at least, maybe even more. And I appreciate the hard work you're doing on it, but I'm going to keep pushing on that because that's the jewel. That's half of Avalon right there is that beach, and we haven't had it. It's just
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'll take a look at and talk with the city manager and see if we're able to come back at the next meeting and discuss that. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Bob.
One question for you, Bob, too. Now, I started this developer's fee and contractor's fee at the end of my first term. I'm halfway through my second term, and where are we in that? And if I'd like to see it get put on the front burner somewhere. It's been quite a long time
It can be moved
now.
up to the front burner. It's
We can't?
we can move it up to the front burner.
Okay.
And it is. We have to go through the process like I described before. We're behind schedule
It's
right
being
now
worked on,
because we have
Richard.
so
It's
many
being
things
worked on.
that we're juggling. But we got to go through the process. If we don't go through the process, then it could be subject to litigation. So we want to make sure that we go through the correct
So-
process, and that also that the community fully understands every aspect of that development impact fee.
So in the process, how far along are we? Are we halfway through it? We 3/4 through it?
We're halfway through it.
We're halfway through it?
Yes.
2 years?
Now it's really going
2
through the
years
public.
later?
Now it's going through the public process.
Okey-doke.
Bob,
Just-
we had a tentative timeframe of June to bring it forward, didn't we?
So the schedule I shared with you and the schedule and task was the next step is to get it in front of the public so they can view it, okay? And yes, we're behind on that schedule, getting it up and making sure that they at least have 2 weeks to review it. And then we would target different stakeholder groups and do full public workshops so that we could fully describe what the projects, because you have to look at the individual projects that make up those fees and all the different categories so that everybody understands that. And then all that gets put back together. If you get that, the assumptions correct, and because all of it just after that adds up to numbers that make, those assumptions have to have the foundation to build those fees. Okay? And so if we get those correct, then from that point, it's just really math and that drives that. But if not, then the whole thing is not
So
substantial.
in your estimate, how long do you think that will be, just around, off the top of your head?
What it showed on my schedule that was I was making like 5 months that process would take. I don't see that accelerating, but if we go through the process right, I think that if we take it carefully through there, it was just one of the items that was added on my task list from the previous city manager, and I was helping him get that through, and so I'm the one guy that's doing it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thanks.
Good evening. We have 3 announcements from the Finance Department. This week, Denise and I are meeting with the department heads to begin drafting the 2019 budget to stay on track to presenting our first draft in May. Also, the auditors and staff are completing the last items of the 2017 audited financial statements, and the financial statements will be presented to you in May as well. And lastly, we're pleased to report that the city has identified a very qualified senior accountant candidate who accepted our employment offer and will start April 25th, subject to satisfying the pre-employment requirements.
Great.
So we're excited about that.
Questions? No? Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. Very quickly, last Monday, March 12th, we had a terrific drill up at the school, a lockdown drill. That included the school, the students, sheriff personnel, and the fire department. It went really well. The kids are very well prepared. They understand what they need to do at all the grade levels. That included some Special Enforcement Bureau personnel that came from the mainland to be a part of that. So that went very well. We also participated with the Sheriff's Department and the school as part of the National Walkout Day. That was that same Wednesday, the 14th. It went very well. The school did a great job of giving the kids a venue and a platform to have conversation and have a meeting and not just walk out of class. That went very well. This week, with the rain that's forecast on Wednesday and Thursday, city staff's going to use this as a training opportunity to open the Emergency Operations Center. So it'll just be that we're going to conduct our normal business, but we're going to do it under an incident command model and make it look like it would if the EOC was open. Next week, March 26th through the 30th, is National Tsunami Preparedness Week. We're going to be participating in that as the fire department and doing a short logistics drill on Monday the 26th. And we're going to distribute some flyers around town. You may see some flyers around town that offer very simple instructions about what to do in the event of a tsunami. With that, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Is the Harbor Department involved in the tsunami thing as well?
They are. If there was an earthquake, both of us are going to receive notification if it's something long-term, short-term, as far as tsunami arrival time.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just a few things in the Harbor Department. I met with an engineer yesterday, in fact, to start planning the removal of the floats 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for maintenance. It's been 15 years since they've been put in, and they haven't been moved out since then. So we're working with the Express and the cruise ship, and we've got a line on a 60 by 20 foot float that we're looking to lease to be able to put in and take one float out at a time. So we're looking probably October, November for this. We're still trying to get prices and everything and costs.
To start in October, November?
Yeah.
Or to be completed by October, November?
No, start.
Oh, start.
Start, yeah.
After the season.
And October, I think, is a dream, because we're just way too busy with everything that's happening with the cross-channel carriers and everything else. So, but by getting this extra float, we can put that one in, take one out, take it over to the mainland, get it rehabbed, bring it back, and then move that float forward to the next position. So hopefully it'll work out. We're getting ready to put in all of our floats for the summer. Jay's already starting to put in his mooring, so that dinghy dock on the east side will be coming out, and we'll be putting a float against the pier, float H, and then we'll put that dinghy dock around to the west side, so at least we'll have more dinghy docks until the club club dock gets put in and Barbara Pearson dock gets put in. As Bob mentioned, our plan is to put in the fuel dock float hopefully sometime in May. We've got the anchor plates and everything that had to build those, so we have those. So that's going to take a pretty good period of time because it's all new. There's it's not anything from the old fuel dock that was there. So we'll probably put in one float. I don't see us putting in two floats because the second float had got some bad resin, and it's just not ready to go in. So our concentration on get the one in with two pumps and get through the summer, and then regroup for the next summer. Regarding the tsunami, that's on our list with our personnel. We have a safety meeting the second Tuesday of every month, and the one coming up will be regarding what to do in a tsunami, how we're going to handle it. We're going to disconnect the floats, tow them out to deeper water and just let them set there, because out there they're safe. Inside with the current and all, they run into trouble. So I'll be working with Mike and our Chief Krug and Bob, and we'll hopefully we'll be ready. But usually when it happens, I don't think we ever are. But we'll do the darndest thing. So, and we sent 8 Harbor Patrol officers over to a medical active shooter class and over in Long Beach, and this was designed if we're as EMTs, if anything happens up there, we will be involved. And this class was to show us if you get hurt, how to survive, how to put a tourniquet on yourself without a hand, and stuff like that. So it was a great class. Our guys went through it and really enjoyed it. And so it's just we're another tool in the drawer to be able to combat any issues that arise, hopefully. So. Anyway, that's about it at the harbor. I don't know, any questions? All right. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Harbor Master.
Good evening. I have quite a few, so I'm going to try to go really quick. I don't want to drag this out. So the Zangray Hotel, the new north building is at approximately 50% done in their framing. The renovation of the south building, which is the Pueblo, they're working on repairing the foundation in that foundation walls, so that's going very well. Trailhead is the third floor is at the rough framing stage, and they should be proceeding with the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and structural work next week. Roofs ready to cover, and drywall and windows should be showing up next week. Vaughn's, the exterior foundation walls are complete. Backfill and compaction is underway for preparation of the concrete slab. Their sign application has been withdrawn, and it should be coming back next month. Atwater renovation, the third floor demolition is 90% complete. Second floor is about 10%, and they are proceeding with the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work in that structure as well. I have not heard anything about the plans for C.C. Gallagher. Bloom has changed hands, and they are not requiring any additional permits from the city for what their plans are. We had a nice meeting with the team from the Villa Portofino. I can't share what they talked about, but I think if they go forward, the community will be really happy with what their plans are for that property. Tuna Club's going to be doing some piling work over the next 5 to 6 weeks, mostly on the land side. They're already working with Mr. Greenlaw and the Harbor Department for what little bit of work has to happen tide dependent out in the harbor. Island Company's moving forward with foundation plans for replacing 4 of the Quonset huts at Pebbly Beach. We're meeting next Friday with Herlinda Chico and Supervisor Hahn's team to go over the next phase of the library improvement project. They're going to be doing some more cosmetic upgrades and improvements to the library to make better use of that other side patio. We have a new office on the Planning Commission agenda tomorrow night for the wastewater treatment plant. We had a little bit of an issue about where the office was in that structure, so we're putting in a modular office out there, and that's in front of the Planning Commission tomorrow. We're working with the Coastal Commission to see if they're going to need a coastal development permit. We are working with LA County Census to upgrade our street addresses. LA County is going to be taking the lead for us on the census, but we're going to be helping them with updating our information. The RFP for the local coastal program update went live on the website today, so we're hoping to start hearing from some consultants on that. And Mr. Greenlaw was kind enough to share some contact information in his former employer about their home inspection program, why they had a home inspection program and why they discontinued their home inspection program. So we're going to talk to them and see if we can pick their brain on that. And I think that's it. Any questions?
Very good. Lots going on.
Can I?
Yeah, we are busy.
Can I just add a couple quick items for your meeting with the supervisor's office
Yes,
on
ma'am.
the library? It'd be really great to get some cameras up on that little parklet area from the outside of the building. And I know I've mentioned it several times to several different participants from LA
Okay.
County that have been over. And then also trash and recycle bins or a trash and recycle bin for that area. It tends to be a late night hangout for
Okay.
those that are taking a break from jails. And there's lots of things left at night, and there's lots of activity in the middle of the night. And
That's kind of funny since it's right outside the sheriff's station.
you'd be surprised, yeah.
Okay.
You'd be surprised at some of the unfortunate things that we
I'm
find
happy to
every
mention
morning. But cameras would be really great for there, and then yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Cindy, Friends of the Library sent a proposal to the city to purchase some of the solar bellies, and we're getting approval of where we will place those on city properties and be responsible for emptying those, and that's right by the park areas
Oh, great.
of the library.
Fantastic.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. 2 quick reminders. Springfest is this week from Thursday, the 29th from 5 to 9. Great food, fun games, and wonderful times. So community is invited out, and would love to see you as well. On the 31st is our Community Egg Day at Descanso Beach from 10 to 12. Our first hunt starting at 10 o'clock for the little tykes. But hunting eggs, and we'll have some spring crafts out there, and then photos with the Easter Bunny. Today, we have to give a great thank you to the Rotary Club. We had our community planning day. We did it a day early. It was scheduled for tomorrow, but with the incoming rain, we thought we'd get in before the rain came. But a wonderful turnout. We put in 500 plants today, palms, succulents, ground cover, perennials, led by Cliff Haig and Linda Salo. Is it Salo, the pronunciation of her last name? Your president of the Rotary, Bryce, was there as well. I might miss a few people, but Jason, who's in the audience, was there. Vicky, Nicole, Whitey came out. The Public Works Department assisted with a couple of the staff from our group. We had some some community members. Captain Black came out. Val Schaefer was out. Tricia from the Yacht Club came out. Laura DeMille brought somebody who's the new activities director at the hospital, my understanding. She brought, and it's the first time I met her, Joe, in her walker, and she helped plant for about an hour, hour and a half. So it was a great time. Like I said, 500 plants went in the ground today just before some much needed rain. So real thank you to the Rotary. They spearheaded this project. This is the second. We did one in fall of last year, and not just the money that they put towards it, but just the manpower that lent towards it and spearheading the project. It was a great community effort. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Council member reports. Who would like to begin?
Quick and easy, I will be attending the Gateway Cities Council of Government meeting, and I believe it's April 3rd. That's it. That's all I've got.
Councilman Hernandez?
I'm good right now.
Okay.
Dan took on my thunder. I was gonna
Councilman Sampson?
I'm going to pass today.
I'll pass too.
And me, 3, 4. Okay.
Wait, American, I have a few, and I think Scott.
Oh, and did I forget the two of you?
That's okay.
I did.
This is a couple things just from the administrative office, and there was a request for proposal for the Yellow Jacket contract and the trash collection, and that is due by 4 p.m. on Friday, April 20th. We are starting to enroll a new ticketing system that code enforcement will be using handheld devices. We've transferring from JDS, which was our past contractor, and this company is called Data Tickets. We are excited about it because people will be able to pay online. They don't need to come into City Hall. They can pay online or mail it in. That will also go for any disputes. It's kind of like the mainland, the real world. And it's open 24/7. It's bilingual customer service, and we are excited about the new company. And then just an announcement at the next April 3rd City Council meeting is when we will have the medical cannabis delivery business application and appeal fees before the City Council for your approval. And we will notice it for the next 2 Fridays in the paper.
Excellent. City Attorney?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Oral communications. This is an opportunity for people in the community to speak on an item that's not on the agenda. You will be limited to 3 minutes and no action will be taken.
My name is Cindy Morris, and I'm a resident, and I wanted to bring up the problem up at Roaring Canyon. There's Renton's Mine and the motorcycle track and the mud that is up there. If we have more rain, like they had in Montecito, we have a huge problem. I've brought some pictures to give to you guys to show you on the last storm in 1 hour how much mud came down from the upper dump and then down Roaring Canyon. There's no storm drain. It is super bad, and on top of that, we have all the dumping that's up at the top of Renton's Mine, at the motorcycle track. And I understand this is Island Company property, but at the end of it is your waste treatment center, your desalination plant you guys have been all talking about. And this last storm, I've worked since 2004 on the other side of this mountain, and I've never been stuck out there before until this last storm. You had the bottom road go out and the top road, so that affects your barge, the trash, your desalination plant, your electric, everything that is on that side, which will affect your whole community. So I feel that you have the right as the city to say something to the Island Company to put in their storm drains. I'll submit the pictures to show you how it affects that plant. There's not enough, and just on my way here, I was running late because I was taking last minute pictures to show that they did have more sandbags this time, but it's nothing. If you have a mudslide, you have more than 1 hour, you have 2 days, 3 days of rain, you're gonna have a huge problem with that, that mud. So I feel that you have the right as the city to say something to the Island Company to put in their storm drains. I'll submit the pictures to show you how it affects that plant. There's not enough, and just on my way here, I was running late because I was taking last minute pictures to show that they did have more sandbags this time, but it's nothing. If you have a mudslide, you have more than 1 hour, you have 2 days, 3 days of rain, you're gonna have a huge problem with that motorcycle track, and the steepness of those two canyons goes straight to that plant. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention that I've been talking about for about 4 years, and so today I finally came up and like, I need to say something because nothing has been put up to protect it and to direct it out from you. They should take that water and use it for that desalination, for the waste treatment center. It's a lot of good water just wasting down, but the mud is what I'm worried about. So I'm going to submit this to you, and I just wanted to bring it to your guys' attention.
Why don't you hand those to Bob Greenlaw?
Oh, sure. And the Edison, they should take a look at that and see what they can do to move it out.
So I guess when something like this is brought to our attention, we punt it to you, and you punt it to the proper staff to take a peek and see if we need to make contacts down the line, or what do you recommend?
Well, I know that we have made some progress with Island Company as well as wastewater treatment plant. Van has diverted some of the flow off to the backside of the plant, correct, Bob? But we will further look into it. I do know that the Island Company was up in that canyon a couple weeks ago, looking at all the abandoned vehicles, which I've been talking to Randy Harrell about, trying to help them orchestrate getting that off with our program that we're implementing. But yes, thank you, Cindy.
I also want to add, you also have a hazardous waste treatment platform right there. So if you have the mudslide, you're taking all the trash and debris, cars, appliances, everything you can think of, don't even realize. On top of, you have a lava rock outcrop that with all the erosion that we've had for the last 5 years, it's all gone. There's no more dirt to hold it. So you have this huge outcrop of little rock walls right behind your hazmat. So all of that's going to go, and your curve for your wastewater treatment is only this high. The mud's there in 1 hour, and then it just goes all the way right to your desalination plant. And that little drain, the water's coming the other way. So it really needs to be addressed by tomorrow with the rain coming. At least put something up there to stop it from hitting your Edison plant. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's important because that's the building that houses our centrifuge for our wastewater treatment plant. And that was already almost inundated with mud the last time. Thank you for giving us those photographs.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's important because we have a really expensive computer that's in there that runs all that equipment. And that's really helpful information. Thank you.
And other communication? Yes.
Bryce Knoll, 354 Sumner. In my capacity as the president of the Rotary Club, Dan, thank you for the kind words. There's a couple things that I need to make sure that I note that Gary Black and Lola DeMille are Rotary Club members. And also a big thank you to a lot of the Conservancy volunteers that came out. There were 11 kids, and 10 of them were from the University of Oklahoma on their spring break, and one I don't know where she was from. As a private citizen, I'd like to say I'm very happy that Jordan's back on the water issue, and also I'm very excited about the trash receptacles. Never thought I'd say that. In my capacity as a member of the Medical Center Foundation Board, I wanted to talk briefly about the Traveler Tax to Fund Hospital initiative that's coming up in a couple weeks. I came to this island to have a better quality of life. Can't stand traffic, but more than anything, I hate being a number. I moved here to a place that I cared about and that cared about me. We are a community, not just a collection of people alone against the world. This is a fundamental building block of Avalon. We all value our community, or we would not suffer the challenges that island life brings. What is at stake with this vote? The medical center facility is aging and will soon fail itself and Avalon residents. But still, it has saved more lives and had more positive impact on this community than probably everybody in this room put together. I've heard the most amazing stories of this community rallying to save the things that matter most to us. Health is of paramount importance. I'm fine with an individual not supporting this measure because they're willing to get on a boat with pneumonia, go sit in 405 traffic, and wait in a giant hospital waiting room because they want to save the cost of a McDonald's cheeseburger. But this is not about them, and this is not about any of us. It's about the babies that we smile at. It's about the children that will survive us. We have sat on this issue for 2 decades, and time is up. I'm 31 years old and don't have any children yet, but I, for one, refuse to sit idly by and watch the future generations of Avalon be shortchanged on health care because their parents said $1 was too expensive. If there was another way to do this, it should have been come up with a long time ago, and it would have come up with by now. Your vote does count, and how you vote will impact many generations of children in Avalon to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Others?
Shannon Hill, 110 Las Lomas. I just wanted to remind the community that we still have 2 remaining public forums regarding the ballot measure. So this Thursday, we'll be at the Catholic Church at 7 o'clock, and next Wednesday, we'll be right here in this room at 6 o'clock. So the public is invited. Next Wednesday will also be televised.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shannon. Is that it? Okay. We will go on to the consent calendar.
Okay, I have 5 items on the consent calendar this evening, and I just want to make a note of item number 4, but I guess I'll do that when we get to it. I'm sorry. Actions from the March 6, 2018 regular City Council meeting. We have warrants for a total disbursement for the month of February for $1,789,643.92. We have a professional services agreement for Dudick for our sewer system management plan audit, which is required from our cease and desist, and is for $11,500. On number 4, which is the authorization for a temporary interim finance director, I just want it noted that we have Bob Mesher, unfortunately, had to fast track leaving us, and we're very sad that he is, and so that stepped up our process, and so I was scrambling to get an interim person in. We have reached out to private companies like Muni-Temps, and also we have reached out to a couple of the different regions of a CSMFO organization. We've had several names that we've been going through and speaking to, asking for resumes. And I placed a fairly large number for that contract on this agenda, but I was trying to make it larger than smaller, and I have to come back to you. If some of them, well, all of them I would be putting for the interim person in our casita, so we wouldn't be paying for the hotel. Couple of them won't be asking for food stipend, but we would be paying for the boat to come back and forth, as well as for parking over there, but we're trying to work out something with the landing. So anyway, so that is, you would be authorizing me from whichever one that I picked for a not to exceed amount of $23,000 a month, and that is a lot, and that's for a 6-month time, and I really anticipate that a shorter time frame, as well as not as I shot really high with that amount. I just want you to know that. And then the 5th one is just to extend the trash contract for all of our public trash cans. We are going out for, or as I said, we have gone out for that RFP, but I know that the timeline on that, we were trying to figure out the cost of a trash truck, and if we were going to purchase it, or if the person coming back in their RFP would incorporate that into the contract. So we've extended it up to 6 months. We're asking you for that just to cover ourselves in case the new person comes in, needs time to purchase a trash truck.
Great. Okay. Council?
I'll make a motion to approve items 1 through 5.
Is there comments from the audience? Okay, call for the vote.
All ayes.
Item number 6.
Okay. Item 6 is a standard one that comes to the council every time we have a municipal election. You have a couple options. The first one is if you wanted to adopt the resolution. If in the event that we have a tie vote of the highest number, obviously, we would have a special election, and that would be held on the Tuesday, not less than 40 days or no more than 125 days after the certification of the election. And you would have to determine if you were to adopt that resolution, you would also have to determine if it was just for this municipal election or all future municipal elections. Or, and this is what's always transpired in the past, that you, instead of a special runoff election, that the elections board, which comprises of the city clerk and 2 other designees, it's determined by lot. And that's your decision.
What is the pleasure of the council?
I like the lot.
I do too.
I do 3, but can you just explain that a little further?
Well, it could be the flip of a coin or however we determine it.
It's been done rock, paper, scissors, drawing of straws, or the last time we've done that with the city, we draw cards.
And it would be done with a lot of witnesses. And you could say, come back to the next meeting to determine it.
It's not like best 2 out of 3 or.
No.
Well, if you set the rules.
It depends.
You need a motion?
I think a lot would be good.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I move the lot.
I'll second it. Move to second it. Comments? Call for the vote. Okay.
4 ayes, 1 no. Sampson.
Did you want to share what you were thinking?
What?
Because you voted no? Did you want to share?
Well, it's far too important to draw cards on a vote like that.
You would have preferred to have another election?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, item number 7.
Okay. Item number 7 is before you this evening because in the last couple months we have received different requests for several different things to happen out at the Casino Dock fuel facility. Gabby's going to hand you just some different options that we could think of, not specific ones, just a general to guide you in a discussion. We've had people approach us to ask us if they could rent the facility out there just as is, to bring in a caterer so they could have a birthday party or some kind of special event. We've had several people approach, I believe Dan, as well as a council member, if they could have a food truck out there. We've had just asking if we should, put out some picnic tables out there. It's just a beautiful vista point so people could sit out there and enjoy the point out there and have a lunch or whatever. So on what I've given to you, so if you could discuss if you'd like it as a public facility, a rental facility, bring in a food truck item, and obviously some of these things you would have to go out to the public for a request for proposals to make that determination. We still have on the back burner, I can't remember how many months ago when we had the request for proposals from 3 individuals for more of a permanent building out there. And that's been on hold pending our further discussion and negotiations with the Island Company on the rent. So, and then there's the 4th option would be if you wanted to use that area for any other kind of business.
Well, one, we've already looked into the food truck, and the situation with that is that in order for it to comply with health department, it has to be able to be pressure washed and cleaned every day. And so we've already kind of gone through that process, didn't we?
I don't think totally, no. I don't feel so. It's I don't know a lot about food trucks, but there's the thing is from what I understand, they have to have a place in which to prep their food away from the site for another thing, and then they have to be able to dispose of their waste. But I don't know that I know the full operation of a food truck. To me, that wasn't.
Yeah, yes, over the last 4 years that we've been trying to figure out what to do out there,
I can't say, Cindy, I don't know what all the regulations are for a food truck. I wasn't bringing that type of information before you this evening. It was just to you to provide direction to staff as to which one of these options might even be worth researching.
I'll just throw out there to begin the conversation that I'd like to see it be used as a park space for the summer, that it's open for, maybe we put some picnic tables out there. We allow, whether it's one particular provider or somebody can come in and say, I want to rent the space every Saturday and Sunday and just do hot dogs and hamburgers and have some live music, until we can figure out what's happening with that lease space. I mean, ultimately, I think we want to have a restaurant out there and to build that and do what we need to do, but until such time as we can sort out with the island company that amount of lease, we haven't been able to give a contract to any of the 3 people who have applied for the RFP. So rather than it just be sitting out there stagnant, it doesn't seem like it would be that expensive to put some picnic tables out there and then potentially create a rental space or a rental fee for it and allow members of the public to do birthday parties or something out there. It's minimal impact to the space. But also one of the biggest draws of that location has been live music in all the summers prior. So it'd be nice if there's some sort of way of still, having a beer garden or something that would still provide for some live music on the weekends at the very least. Those are my thoughts.
And I'm going to take the other position, and that this is all healthy discussion. It was funny when we were looking at all of this, we said, well, maybe a food truck is a very good idea. And I personally am in favor of the food truck. What I would like to see, though, is that we look at maybe something, because I don't know when this situation with the island company will be resolved, but to put a lot of the responsibility of maintaining that public facility on our staff when they're already kind of taxed, it makes me a little nervous. I'd like to be able to get some rental income from that. So I guess I would like to propose that we put it out there for a food truck. And there possibly 2 food trucks could sit on the pad. And I'm assuming then those people that were interested would have to, they could tell us what all the responsibilities are and the requirements are for the actual food truck. We would come up with some rental fee for some length of time, whether it be a year or 18 months, so that it makes them worth their time if they were going to lease something. They also then, when they came with their proposal, hopefully they would say, and we'll have music on the weekends, and and we can get a beer and wine license, because that takes a few months to get. But I always think about the divers out there, that this way it wouldn't be hit and miss, that there's a facility for them to have something to eat. And again, it puts the maintenance of that part of the facility on the person that has the rentals. So that's just kind of my idea.
Did any of you talk to, what's his name, Bob?
Joe.
Joe.
Dale Barrow.
Did you guys see his trampoline setup he had, a portable trampoline for that area out there? It was just something that he proposed and talked to me about out there. It's all portable, and it's all, you could set it up in an hour and take it down in an hour and everything. It's all portable. He just asked about that area. And I just thought I'd bring it up because he'd asked me about it.
Oh, he mentioned it something to me, but he didn't mention where he was. I never
Well,
saw the sites.
that was just one of the spots.
sites.
That was all.
Okay.
And it was just, it's all portable, and it's taken down every night, and there's somebody there. And
Yeah.
that was just the spot on his mind that he was thinking about.
Okay.
And, I just thought I'd mention that because he had mentioned it to me.
Right.
If you had a chance to look at it, it's kind of a different thing, but it's all portable, like I said, and it goes back and forth every day.
Okay.
And that was just the spot that he says is not being used right now, but
Yeah.
that's why I bring that up. But
Oh, good. Thank you.
I'm passing that, Richard.
And Harbor.
Okay.
JJ?
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts regarding the band. When the band was there last summer and the summer priors, we got a lot of complaints out on the harbor about the music, how loud it was, the kind of music that was being played, hard rock sometimes, and there's one thing we want to make sure that we want to maybe stipulate is that if you're going to have the band, have it back towards the water, shooting back towards the street, and because we did receive a lot of complaints from the boaters on the music, and it depends on what music you like, So
We can put, buy that big electrical box facing the mountain.
No. Against the rail by the water, facing back towards the road, and that way the music's not going out into the harbor; it's going back and the people are dancing on the cement.
Oh, I just assumed that's where they
so
always are.
just a thought.
Okay.
I mean, we received a lot of
Appreciate
complaints
that.
regarding the music, and I mean, a lot of people want something going on out there, and I totally agree with what whatever you come up with.
Right.
It just, I mean, the music is one of the things that be nice to have, but as long as we can restrict where it goes, is all. So,
Good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great point.
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm Paula Patterson. I'm going to side with Annie on this one. I love your idea of a food truck or two. I just think that it's two things, is that we need resources. You need funding for things that you need to do. And I wouldn't just even say rent. I think it would be so lucrative to have food trucks down there because we're going to be hurting for places to eat this summer. We all know that. And talk about percentages. I mean, look at it from a business standpoint, that you're giving them a space and a really incredibly lucrative spot to sell food in a beautiful place. So, I mean, I would just encourage that. I think is such a great idea, and also to widen the diversity of the kinds of food we have here. I watched it again yesterday. I mean, gosh, Coney Island could not serve the people that were here from the cruise ships because it's just packed. There's no place to eat. So anyway, I think it's a great idea if it can be done.
Thank you. Any other comments? Bob Measure?
Stick my 2 cents in about the food truck requirements in the health department. I believe that Supervisor Hahn could be very helpful in that regard, because I do think we are going to have a food crunch, and that we don't want to have people saying, I couldn't feed my kid.
Right.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Why are we going with the temporary? I mean, can we start looking at what we're going to do there? If we can come up with some kind of agreement on the lease. I mean, are we really looking at $138,000 a year on a piece of property that we probably own? We need to come up with a solution and a solution for good. We need to understand whether or not we're going to be in a crunch here, because there's no way any food vendor on a full-time basis is going to be able to assume half of whatever $38,000 is, and it's somewhere around $58,000 a year, which is what their portion of the lease is going to be. Now, I know we have promises from the Island Company, but that doesn't help us to formulate some kind of a lease right now. And I think we've been kicking this can down the road too long, and it's far too important to the community. This is going to be a huge burden on the community's back. We're talking hundreds of thousands. You're talking over a 10-year period, $10 million, $11-12 million that this Island Company wants to charge us for that, and we still haven't even seen a lease on the place yet. So that is a deed. We still don't know who. There's nothing. It goes back to 1943. They took possession of the building in 1928. 1929. It's 1927. They started building. I want to know what we're going to do. I'm talking serious now. We kicked this down the road. Now we're talking about putting something temporary up there. We don't know how much we're going to pay for it. Once again, it's the Island Company holding the community hostage, and I don't appreciate it. Okay? We just got comments that there's no place to eat. That's because all the restaurants have been shut down. We can't let them do this to us again. Somewhere, somebody's got to come up and be clear about what the Island Company's intentions are here. This can't be such a big thing that the community's got to carry around.
Joe, all I can say is that just as recently as this afternoon, I was speaking with Aunt Randy Hurl. I think that the item before us now, I know was for temporary, and I understand your frustration for the long term there. So
it's the frustration of the people of Avalon. People are really bummed out right now about how the Island Company's been treating us and how they've got, the people of Avalon have a boot on their necks right now. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of serious problems if we can't feed people because all the restaurants have been shut down. And now, this is the next restaurant we're trying to open, trying to stop us from shutting down this restaurant, seemingly. We got to play hardball with them, just like, we can't give them the opportunity to, once again, to, hold us hostage here. Like with a $138,000 lease, it's not sustainable. There's no way the city can afford that. There's no way any one vendor can go in there and say, I'll assume half of $138,000. That means they're going to be paying an extra $6,000, $8,000. That's $5,575 a month that we're going to have to pay, and the vendor's going to have to pay if this is what the lease says. And if they're going to negotiate, we need to come up and they need to stand in front of this council and they need to tell us what they're going to charge us for that property. I think $1 a year is really appropriate. I mean, considering we probably own the property, that is, I think that's something that, just has to be resolved as well.
Joe, I believe legal counsel has advised us that they own the property.
I haven't seen the deed. It's nothing. It's been from 1943. They took possession of the property in 1927. So we still don't know for sure.
Legal counsel has advised that they own it.
Whose legal counsel?
Our legal counsel.
Well, our legal counsels could be wrong too. Probably is wrong here. It's probably just giving in to the Island Company, just like they've done in the past. I mean, it's a big thing to have. It's a big boot to have on your neck. I understand, Scott. It's hard to go up against the Island Company, but the people of Avalon would like to question the lease, the deed, what our responsibility is towards this, and we need to go on. We need to get it done, and get a vendor in there, have them build something, and go on with the project so that with a reasonable lease. Otherwise, we got to move the facility. We're going to have to move the fuel facility, and we're going to have to access the Casino Dock Cafe with shore boats. We'll put a float out in front of them and access it with shore boats. That's the only way we can do it. We pull our stuff out of there, pull the fuel dock out, and simply use it for something that we can access from the water. Dan Hunky's had some good ideas about that, having an aquatic center out there. I'm not really into it. I would rather see the restaurant and the fuel dock just the way it is, but you know what? I'm not playing games anymore. This is not funny. This is absolutely something that is on the backs of the people of Avalon, and they can't stand it anymore. They don't want to deal with it. Island Company has to come forward and be clean about this. That's my sentiments. Anyway.
Thank you. Have we had that surveyed?
Yes.
We have.
So, but moving forward with what is before us today.
We have a survey that was produced that we have reviewed.
And we gave the documentation.
Yeah.
The main reason I think we're going for food truck is because we don't yet know the long-term effect. And to have somebody come in, and I think what we had decided before, and correct me if I'm wrong, Denise, We didn't want to feel comfortable giving a 30-year lease to somebody to build a restaurant, which is what they would need, 25 or 30 years, but then us be still paying that 137 plus with the CPI every year. So,
I just want to clarify.
Please.
So currently, we are at $70,000 a year for all the cement area plus the cave that we fondly call it. As of July 1st, it would go up to $135,000. I feel very confident that we will not ever hit that. I think that the Island Company is going to be very reasonable in working with us. So I feel very confident about that.
Okay.
Could I suggest two paths?
Paths, yes.
Okay, one path is that we continue to work with the Island Company for a long-term solution to the property out there. And the second one is that we do an RFP for the food trucks to make sure that they can meet all the LA County requirements and also the city requirements, because restaurants have special sewer fees and salt fees that a food truck would have to pay too. We'd have to work with the finance department to prorate that.
Okay.
With that kind of stuff, so you can go down parallel paths there. And
I love, of course.
Whatever gets there done.
And so some of the considerations also, let's just kind of throw out whatever we're thinking, is I don't know, because we had two people that stuck in the race, one that wanted to build a building and one that had kind of more of a mobile unit, but not a food truck. And I think we should at some point give them the first right of refusal if we go out with a little RFP, because they did stick with us. They have stuck with us through the whole thing, and then we gave them some other little consideration. But then I think the other part is, and I don't know what we do exactly, do we say we want to go on a percentage basis? Do we just want to do a square footage? Do we want them to come back and tell us what they want to give us? I don't know how specific we should be, because I mean, I think an initial inquiry pretty quickly, just to say, I guess people are interested. There would be interest, but I don't know how specific we have to be in the RFP, and I don't know who puts that typically together. Is that?
Usually, staff puts it together. If we don't have any criteria from the council, then we just say to them, propose terms, and then we look at those terms, and then in the negotiation for that, we can refine those terms. So we can leave it open and let them propose a percentage, or a square foot, or just a square foot, or
whichever's highest, or whichever's highest.
Right, and then, yes, and then, again, because this is not a public works project, we have the ability to negotiate price and terms with whoever submits proposals. Okay. And you can give, in this process, you can give special consideration to those that have been trying to open a restaurant or an establishment there for the last year or so by participating in the RFP process already.
Okay. And then, Dan, if you don't mind, on this, you've seen this proposal by Martin Leyva and Joe Del Barro, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but they're talking about having them both there. But is there room for seating and chairs and all of that if they tried to put both of these at the same location? It looked a little crowded.
Trampolines?
What?
You talking trampolines?
That's what you haven't seen them yet? Here.
No, I just wonder what Parsec would say about trampolines. I don't think you get enough insurance to cover us.
Well, they have them, I think, in Long Beach. We have seen these things.
Yeah, there's a similar one there at the Pike that I think that they're looking at doing. It would be tight, especially if you're talking about trying to get a band out there, musicians out there. There will be some seating, but their proposal is to do both, potentially a catering truck, and then the bungee trampoline.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it would be pretty crowded, but and let me ask another question. I'm sorry, Dan. Were there any other alternatives when you've been talking to Joe about a location for something like this? Did you come up with any other option?
He first came, he wanted to put it at the parks, some of our parks, and they're just too small, I think, for what he's looking to do. Machado, you might be able to do something, but it's really off the beaten track for what he's trying to do. We were thinking out of the box a little bit. Could you put it out at the mall temporarily, or people waiting in line to get on an express coming or going? they take some, it takes some room. And then there's going to be, lines and, he looked at the pier, measured the pier's too small for it. So
Okay.
it's just really tight on space. I think one of his alternatives, if he couldn't do something with the city, was potentially to go to the island company and see if they had something, but he'd rather work with the city if he could.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'd like to send this proposal to Parsec and get their feeling on it.
We could do that if you want to.
Yeah, because I think they're gonna choke.
So that would just be a quick send a picture and let them see? Okay.
You see these young?
Oh, I'm sorry, pass it down.
Seen that.
Sorry, Joseph. Okay, so do you kind
So
of have
you're talking
direction?
about one food truck for one?
Well, two, if they're 8 by 24 or whatever, you could put 2 trucks there. But
You
then,
could have actually 2 vendors there.
well, I'm just throwing it out.
I mean, I
You
don't
could
see
have-
why not. I mean,
Or you could have one vendor that wants to do 2 food trucks. I guess,
So we're getting direction, I believe it's to do the dual thing, pursue an RFP for food trucks as well as continue and push as hard as possible on the island company for a long-term solution.
Of course, of course.
Actually,
something reasonable.
so for the discussion of the food trucks,
Yes.
Whoa.
we could have direction on that, and for discussion on island company, we'd have to recuse Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Cassie McGugan to leave on that portion and get direction from the other 3.
Okay.
Well,
Chief.
I mean,
Do we hear a chief has this?
I know we're talking in very broad terms right now.
Yes, sir.
But we can't say that we might, and we might not be able to put 2 food trucks out there. At the end of the day, it's a fuel dispensing facility. There are distance and clearances and things like that. And the other issue, the food trucks run on propane. So there's distances and clearances and things that are required for a vehicle of that size and the
okay.
propane that the truck needs to operate. And then because it would be a fixed facility, now you've got to talk about where do they store extra propane tanks and things like that. So it could be that 2 trucks would fit out there. It's possible that 2 trucks wouldn't fit out there. I just wanted to.
So can you answer that question? Can you do that research then?
I'd need to see something definitive. I'd need to see what was going to be put out there, what its dimensions would be, what the plans.
Okay.
It would be, we can't circumvent, on the fire code side of the house, we can't circumvent fire code or do anything different than if somebody was going to put a building out there.
Okay.
So whether somebody's going to put a building out there or a food truck, we need to know what it's going to look like, what safety features it has, and then we could give a more educated answer, a more informed answer.
We could design, we could put that information about the location of fuel tanks in the fire, in the RFP, request that they respond to that as part of their response to the
Approval of the fire department.
Okay.
That'd be a good idea.
Could they store those tanks, I'm sorry, Chief, could they store those tanks in that shed or whatever you call that place?
The cave?
The cave? No.
Because that area is enclosed, and the tanks would need to, they need a space where they can ventilate.
Okay.
That's why you'll see them, like the blue Rhino stations you see on the main line. It's outside of a building, and it's in a cabinet that ventilates.
Okay.
Could I ask the council, please, that if we could come back with a very thorough, thought-out plan for 2 food trucks that would cover any safety issues, any LA County health inspection things, where are they going to get rid of their waste, all of those things, so we don't. And I will try my darndest to have it before you at the next council meeting to, but I don't want us to go off half-cocked. I'd like to.
We come back with a go or no-go on our RFP at the next council meeting with additional information about the viability of food trucks there.
and can we also check with the Coastal Commission as to whether or not, would we need any approvals from them to do this?
I don't think we do, but we can check. Okay. Is that direction?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Mark out.
Can I very quickly mention 2 things? I don't know if you looked into it. Eminent domain or condemnation of the property.
We are aware of what that is. Thanks.
Yeah, we don't discuss that.
Okay, where are you going?
We're going to closed session.
Okay. All right, there's no other items. We're going into closed session.
Yeah, we have two closed session. One is conference with labor negotiators to discuss the 3 MOUs. The second is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. This is regarding the status of a potential lawsuit by Robert Humphreys over a trip and fall.
Okay.
Sounds like.
All right, thank you.
But he gave a truck.
I know.
He did.
I thought. Oh.
He did. And we're back from closed session.
No reportable action.
Thank you. Good night, Tony.
Good night,
Thank you,
Tony.
Dudley. Look at that. 2 hours and 20 minutes, kids.